Welcome back to my voice. Live and love, find your true reward. We are going through the Psalms, looking at about 3 a day. I'll talk about that more at the end of today's video. But Psalm 39 is where we are. In Psalm 37, to catch up before we read Psalm 39 and go through Psalm 39, in Psalm 37, it was a wisdom psalm. It was talking about the wise person versus the foolish person, which are synonyms for the righteous person versus the wicked person. In the Bible, in wisdom literature, wisdom is equated with righteousness and foolishness is equated with wickedness. So the righteous person is the wise person and the wicked person is the fool. In Psalm 1, very first video we did, the very first study, the very first entry point into the Psalms, talks about blessed is the man who is righteous, who does not follow the advice of the wicked or take the path of sinners or join a group of mockers. The thing that makes him wise is delineated in verse 2. Instead, his delight is in the Lord's instruction, and he meditates on it day and night. He is like a tree planted beside streams of water that bears its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever he does prospers. Verse 4. The wicked are not like this. Instead, they are like chaff that the wind blows away. So the wise thing to do is take refuge in God, follow God, seek God, honor God, be wise, be righteous, and you'll last. If you're a wicked person, you'll fall apart. That was Psalm 37. Psalm 37 was heavily discussing that. And then we get to Psalm 38, because even the righteous person who is walking with God and honoring God will have times of sin. We will stumble in sin. We will fall into sin. We will jump into sin because in a moment of stupidity, we're like, this seems like the best thing to do in this moment, and it'll feel good, so let's do this. So Psalm 38 was David discussing, and he was beaten down by this sin that he was struggling with, to the point that he ends the psalm in 21 and 22. Lord, do not abandon me. My God, do not be far from me. Hurry to help me, Lord, my Savior. And it ends on a, I need help, but not a, I know that God's going to save me. It's open-ended. It's one of the few that ends open-ended. Psalm 39, a Davidic psalm. I'm sorry, I don't know why my voice is being how it is right now. A Davidic psalm. I said, I will guard my ways so that I may not sin with my tongue. I will guard my mouth with a muzzle, so long as the wicked are in my presence. I was speechless and quiet. I kept silent, even from speaking good, and my pain intensified. My heart grew hot within me. As I mused, a fire burned. I spoke with my tongue. Lord, reveal to me the end of my life and the number of my days. Let me know how transitory I am. You indeed have made my days short in length, and my lifespan is nothing in your sight. Yes, every mortal man is only a vapor. Selah. Certainly man walks about like a mere shadow. Indeed, they frantically rush around in vain, gathering possessions without knowing who will get them. Now, Lord, what do I wait for? My hope is in you. Deliver me from all my transgressions. Do not make me the taunt of fools. I am speechless. I do not open my mouth because of what you have done. Remove your torment from me. I fade away because of the force of your hand. You discipline a man with punishment for sin, consuming like a moth what is precious to him. Every man is a mere vapor. Selah. Hear my prayer, Lord, and listen to my cry for help. Do not be silent at my tears, for I am a foreigner residing with you, a sojourner like all my fathers. Turn your angry gaze from me so that I may be cheered up before I die and am gone. For the choir director. So, what we have here is, it picks right up. It's talking about the same exact situation that Psalm 38 was talking about. And I hope that you'll see that as we go through. But he starts in verses 1 through 2. I said, I will guard my ways so that I may not sin with my tongue. I will guard my mouth with a muzzle as long as the wicked are in my presence. I was speechless and quiet. I kept silent, even from speaking good, and my pain intensified. There's really not a whole lot of application in these first 2 verses. What we need to know is that it ties perfectly back into Psalm 38, 13, and 14. I am like a deaf person, I do not hear. I am like a speechless person who does not open his mouth. I am like a man who does not hear and has no arguments in his mouth. So David was watching his tongue in that situation, and he talks about that in Psalm 39. Because David had sinned, he was dealing with attacks from people because of his sin and because of the consequences of his sin. And David, his struggle was, I want to sin, I want to say bad things about these people, but I need to not. So he prayed that he chose not to speak. He said, 39, 1 and 2, I will guard my ways so that I may not sin with my tongue. I will guard my mouth with a muzzle as long as the wicked are in my presence. He was not going to speak in front of those people and say something that would hurt them or hurt his witness or anything like that. Verse 2, though, I kept silent even from speaking good, and my pain intensified. Like he took a vow of silence. He wasn't going to say anything good or bad because he didn't want to accidentally sin. Verse 3, my heart grew hot within me. As I mused, a fire burned. I spoke with my tongue. This, verses 4 through 13 is what he said with his tongue, which is described in verse 15 of Psalm 38 when he says, I put my hope in you, Lord, for you will answer, Lord my God. The rest of Psalm 39, verses 4 through 13, is David's prayer to God of putting his hope in God. Now, what we will see is that it still doesn't quite end on a note of a lot of faith. But we have to remember, in 39, David ends the whole psalm saying, hurry to help me. I need help. Because he was still in this situation. So there are times when we don't finish, but the main goal of our life should be that we finish our prayers on a statement of hope and trust. But here's what 4 through 6 says. Lord, reveal to me the end of my life and the number of my days. So first off, instead of talking to the people that were attacking him or talking to people that were not attacking him, he said, I'm going to talk to God because I can do that silently. Lord, reveal to me the end of my life and the number of my days. Let me know how transitory I am. You indeed have made my days short in length, and my lifespan as nothing in your sight. Yes, every mortal man is only a vapor. Selah. Certainly, man walks about like a mere shadow. Indeed, they frantically rush around in vain, gathering possessions without knowing who will get them. In essence, he's saying, that his life is short. He doesn't know how long he has, but he knows that he needs to remember God in all of them. He says, even in verse 5, that his lifespan is nothing in God's sight because God is eternal and he's here for 60 years maybe. We're here for 70, 80 years. My girlfriend and I joke that we want to be around, she wants to live to be 102 almost, and she wants me to be 108 so that we can have lived in 3 centuries. I don't know if that's going to be a thing that happens. I would like for that to be a thing that happens, but at the same time, I don't want to be old and frail. So who knows? But Point of the matter is, we need to remember what our lives are in the sight of God. We need to not think more highly of our lives. We need to not rush around frantically worrying about everything. We need to trust God with the life that He's given us. He has us here in this time, at this place in history for a reason. We need to make the most of our time here. We need to not whine and mope about it and say, oh, this is so terrible and this is the worst thing that could have possibly happened and I don't know why this is happening. We need to trust God. We need to act on that trust, knowing that God has our days numbered. David's prayer, main point of this prayer was, let me know how transitory I am. Now, if we remember back to the previous psalm, that how he was feeling was proof of how transitory he was. He said in 3-8, I have no soundness in my body because of your indignation. There's no health in my bones because of my sin. They are a burden too heavy for me to bear. My wounds are foul and festering because of my foolishness. I am bent over and brought low. All day long I go around in mourning, for my loins are full of burning pain, and there is no health in my body. I am faint and severely crushed. I groan because of the anguish of my heart. So he was silent towards others in this time, but this led him to pray to God and say, help me to remember that life is short, and you've got me. Verse 7 of Psalm 39. Now, Lord, what do I wait for? My hope is in you. So David is still praying to God because the fire was burning inside of him. He had to say something, so he turned his thoughts to God and he prayed to God. Now, Lord, what do I wait for? My hope is in you. Deliver me from all my transgressions. Do not make me the taunt of fools. I am speechless. I do not open my mouth because of what you have done. Remove your torment from me. I fade away because of the force of your hand. You discipline a man with punishment for sin, consuming like a moth what is precious to him. Every man is a mere vapor. Selah. So again, he's saying that he's waiting for God. This is his statement of faith. This is his statement of trust. This is what he's talking about in 38:15 when he says, I put my hope in you, Lord. He says right there in verse 7, my hope is in you. Verse 8, deliver me from all my transgressions. Again, all he's saying here is, deliver me from my sin, deliver me from the guilt of my sin, deliver me from the consequences of my sin. Don't let it be more than I can bear. Specifically, do not make me the taunt of fools, because 38 showed that he was being taunted by people that wanted him dead. We turned and looked at Shimei from 2 Samuel 16 to kind of see what was going on there. Verse 9, I'm speechless, I do not open my mouth because of what you have done. So, because of David was just going through the consequences of his sin with Bathsheba that we had discussed last time in 38. God has done this. This is God's doing. And David decides to be silent as a result of what's going on so he doesn't sin further by talking bad against people. Verse 10. Regardless of this, he says, remove your torment from me. I fade away because of the force of your hand. This, again, goes back to 38:2. Your arrows have sunk into me, and your hand has pressed down on me. David feels like he's fading away because God's hand is so heavy on him, and he asks God to remove this torment from him. He literally says that God is tormenting him in this time, even though from an outside source it looks like other people are tormenting him. But David knows that this is a result of his sin. These are the consequences for his sin. And as such, that's what's going on. Verse 11, you discipline a man with punishment for sin, consuming like a moth what is precious to him. Every man is a mere vapor. So this concludes all the way from 4 through 11 by saying man is a mere vapor. So it ties that theme together. And also gives more credence to the fact that this is talking about the consequences for sin that he was facing after the Bathsheba incident, because he states, you discipline a man with punishment for sin. So he's being disciplined in this time. He knows that he's being disciplined in this time. And then he says, consuming like a moth what is precious to him. He lost one son. He lost another son. He almost lost the kingdom. Like, it was consuming the precious things to him, like a moth consumes our clothes if we don't have, or like back in the day they would have done. I don't think they do that anymore. At least I don't deal with that. Verse 12. Hear my prayer, Lord, and listen to my cry for help. Do not be silent at my tears, for I am a foreigner residing with you, a sojourner like all my fathers. So there, he's saying, God, hear me, just like in 38, when he says, in 21, Lord, do not abandon me, my God, do not be far from me. So he's saying, hear my prayer, Lord, and listen to my cry for help. Do not be silent at my tears, for I am a foreigner residing with you. He's asking God to hear him, asking God to listen to him. In other words, be close to him. And then, verse 12, for I am a foreigner residing with you, a sojourner like all my fathers. He's saying that he's no different, or that this isn't his home, but he's still residing with God at the same time. He belongs with God, but he's dwelling on the earth for this time. Help him to remember that. Help him to remember that man is a vapor. We need to remember that our lives are fleeting, that our lives are not meant to be here. We're here because this is where we glorify God. But in the next life, it will be even better. Verse 13, the conclusion of the psalm. Turn your angry gaze from me so that I may be cheered up before I die and am gone. So David's saying, if you don't stop being angry with me, I'm going to die, I'm going to be gone. He wants to be cheered up, so he wants God to look on him with favor again. As we already know, Christ is the one who stands. He took God's anger for us so that God could be happy with us. He turned his angry gaze on Jesus while he was on the cross so that he could look at us without anger for eternity. This is the gospel. This is good news. This is why we must trust Christ, pray to God, ask him to save us, and know without a shadow of a doubt that he has saved us, and live a life that evidences that fact by saying, like Psalm 39:1, I will guard my ways so that I may not sin with my tongue. Or, I will guard my ways so that I will not sin at all with any part of me. Another psalm that ties into this theme is Psalm 141. We'll get there eventually. I love that psalm a lot. But with that, this was to be sung with the choir. You see the Selahs in there. And at the end for the choir director. But the long and short of it is, life is short. Trust God. Know that with him you have eternity. Without him, all you've got is this little time of goodness, and then it's going to be hell forever. So trust Christ, seek him, take refuge in him, and pray to God, no matter your situation, even when everything looks bad. David learned in this situation from Psalm 38 that his life is short and he needs God. I hope that we learn this too, especially from this coronavirus situation. But will you pray with me? Dear Lord, I thank you for this day. I thank you for technology that allows me to do these videos. I thank you for your word. I thank you for David and his life and his heart to pray to you. Pray that you would help us to trust you more. Help us to turn to you more. Help us to remember that our lives are short, and apart from you, our lives are worthless. But with you, they have eternal worth, eternal value, and not one moment is lost. We need you, Lord. Help us stop the spread of this virus. save many people as a result of it, and bring us back together on Monday for these videos. It's in your name I pray. Amen. Well, with that, I'm done for Saturday. I'm taking Sunday off to rest my voice and to just have a restful day. Monday, we're going to do 40 and 41. And then on Tuesday, we're going to do 42 through 45. Because that's a good way to do it. That's a good plan. I'll explain more on Tuesday when we get there. But till then, have a good Lord's Day tomorrow, and we will see you when we see you. Bye.